Today I'm in Saskatoon and I'm joined by Fraser and Vanessa from YXL Properties, and we discussed their sixth flip in 18 months. We're back in Saskatoon and I'm joined again by Fraser and Vanessa from YXL Properties, and today we're checking out their number 5 flip.
Yeah, because that 20,000 you make next month, you can turn that into 60,000 in 4 months, you know? So, and that's exactly how I'm looking at it too. Step one, the wholesale, there was lots of people that were interested, but nobody wanted to pull the trigger. And I closed on it. I cleaned it up. And 11 days later, I sold it for 300,000. So I made $40,000 on that property.
When it comes to real estate investing, a lot of investors have this debate: passive income or active income, or do I try and do both? Well, in today's video, we catch up with Fraser Nybo, who's in the process of doing just that. But in today's video, we're really going to focus on how he's building up his active income business, and he's got his sights set on making 6 figures a month. Now, he's not there quite yet, but he's got some great proofs of concept, and he's focusing on really just nailing the recipe so he can scale it and get there, so that, you know what, maybe he'll drop out of the rat race once he's making 6 figures a month actively from his real estate investing deals. But anyways, we're going to dive deep into exactly what Fraser's doing in order to build that business and hit the success he needs to quit the 9-to-5. Awesome. Well, I'd love to, kind of pivot here and explore, you've got your apartment buying business that you're looking to grow and continue and, try and get 100 units in the next year, which is amazing. But at the same time, you've still got your flipping business, right? So I know last time we were out and hanging out, we checked out a handful of different flip projects. What's it looking like for the flipping business? Have you had to put that on hold while you're doing the apartment buildings, or doing both at the same time?
Oh yeah, no, we're running them parallel. We have a whole bunch of companies on the go, and there's more than that too, more than the 2 companies that we just talked about. But yeah, the flipping company, so we kind of pivoted that too, actually. So a little bit pre-pandemic, we decided that in our market, there's a lot of people looking for the properties that we've been buying at, say, the $250,000 price point. And I'm talking 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom bungalow, 1,100, 1,200 square feet, just typical normal house. And there's so many buyers in that pool looking for properties like that. So you have to go off market. So we built out this whole thing off market to bring those properties in. And essentially, instead of having to go to people on the MLS, we have people coming to us. So we have a lot of leads coming in off that. But we've actually repositioned and redirected, and now we're targeting building properties a little bit higher end. We're looking at that $400,000 price point starting, and then we're looking for like all good mechanical, all the stuff you look for that you have to spend money on that people don't care about, siding, shingles, furnace, water heater, windows, all that stuff. So we're actually moving over into that direction. So that's interesting. And that as a business is the clients that we want to serve also in the design side of the business. So that they're kind of complementary. We're trying to bring customers from one side of the business over to the other side. So I still do buy call them the lower end properties, and at the $250,000 price point. So, but I've been getting more into like wholesaling and wholetailing these properties and not necessarily flipping them. We still have lots of renovation projects on the go from clients and stuff like that, and we're getting into the higher end flip. But these lower end properties, I'm finding that I can turn them over quicker and make the same amount of profit by doing less with less time, essentially. So just the velocity of money, essentially. So,
yeah, I think that's a big thing, that as we gain more experience as real estate investors, we start to really hone in on that return on time. I know for me, that's literally the number one metric. So, making $40,000 on a flip that takes 4 months sounds awesome. But if I can make $20,000 on a 1-month wholesale, well, I'm going to always go for the 20,000 1-month wholesale versus the longer flip. Even though the flip has more in total profit, I'm focused on what's my actual return on time.
Yeah, because that 20,000 you make next month, you can turn that into 60,000 in 4 months. So, and that's exactly how I'm looking at it too.
Exactly.
A good example is like I bought a property a little while ago, great neighborhood, 1,200 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath. There was pets in the house. It was listed for 135 days. It was listed at 340, and then they dropped it to 330. And then how I offer on properties, I ended up offering 260. But I told them flat out, like, this is a business, no obligation, 100%. But you can close on the day of your choice, leave whatever you want behind, and you can just do whatever you like. We want to make this as easy as possible for you. So they ended up countering with a hot tub. They just wanted the hot tub. They didn't even counter on price. And we touched on this before, just when we were talking. And it's funny how a lot of people think that money is always the main motivator when people sell their house. And it's not. It's like for this house seller in particular, like they wanted their hot tub and they wanted the house gone. So we ended up buying it for $260. City assessment was about $350. And I knew I had multiple exit strategies. So I could have went in. I originally was going to go in and flip it. And basically put $80,000 into it and sell it for a high 300s, almost 400,000. But then pandemic hit, and I wasn't confident that there was going to be a lot, like buyer pool was going to be huge to say in that $400,000 price range. So we put a 3-step plan in place. And what we did with that is we made plan number 1. We were going to try to wholesale it. So I was going to wholesale it for $280,000. And people ask me where I got that number. And essentially, it's not worth it for me to sell it for any less than that. Because if I did a long-term flip, I made $40,000 on that. Or I could wholesale it, which is close on it, clean it up, and resell it. I know I can make $30,000 or $40,000 on that. I'd be able to resell it at $300 easy. So it wasn't worth it for me to sell it for any less than $280, and I had the means to close on it too. So that's what I tell a lot of people when I go to wholesale properties. Like, if you don't buy it, I'm going to buy it. So there's still lots of meat on the bone for you. So step 1, the wholesale. Nobody wanted. There was lots of people that were interested, but nobody wanted to pull the trigger. And in the market that we're in right now, like in Saskatoon, it is a newer concept, and I don't think people have wrapped their head entirely around it. I've had people say to me, like, "Oh, you're gonna make $20,000 on it." Like, I'm not buying a house. It's just that mindset, not knowing that I'm pretty much giving away $20,000 because I went into step 2 and I closed on it. I cleaned it up, and 11 days later, I sold it for $300,000. So I made $40,000 on that property, and like it sold off market, no realtors. It wasn't even on the MLS, so the buyer pool is a lot smaller, and I still blew it out in 2 days. And I probably could have pushed the price point, but we're going back to the velocity of money. I get that pay, I can turn around and I can make that 40,000. So I put 3,000 into cleaning it up, and I paid my investors about 7,000. So say I had 10,000 into the property, so I walked away with roughly, it was a little over 30 actually. So I can turn that 30,000 into a lot more than sitting on it and trying to push a 320 sale price. You know what I mean? So, and then if step 2 didn't work and we were sitting on it for say a month and a half, then I would have went in with the trades and we would have done a full reno. I probably would have dropped the reno budget down to about 50,000. I would have squeezed everywhere we could, and then maybe list at 375. You know what I mean? So we really had to pivot with that whole pandemic, but it really opened up a lot of new windows. So it's interesting, and we're getting a lot of properties coming in now. Like, I just put another one under contract. I don't know, it was this week sometime, earlier this week or last weekend maybe, and it's listed. They wanted 190. I ended up putting it under contract for 140. City assessment's 212, and I can do the same thing. I'll probably turn around and resell it for 200. So there's a lot of opportunity with that, and it's just people they don't want to deal with typical, like, selling through agents and people walking through their house and messing around with all that. They just want a clean, quick sale. So
oftentimes people assume that money has to be the only motivation, but convenience or a multitude of other factors often really does come into play. And one thing I really want to hit home on that you were talking about there, Fraser, is oftentimes new investors, I often find they find one strategy. So like they watch a couple of my videos on BRRRRs, and now they're trying to make every property a BRRRR. Where really what we need to understand is, like, a BRRRR is like a hammer. Sometimes it's good to use a hammer. Sometimes you need a screwdriver though. And with time, as you grow as an investor, you start to almost see the matrix, and you can see all the different options or possibilities that a property can be used for. And then you just start kind of ranking them based upon their return on time, and you focus on your primary strategy. But then you still know that you've got other ways to pivot and exit the property without losing money, which is really critical to me. Warren Buffett's first rule of making money is don't lose money. And for me, us as investors, I think it's really important that we know what our different exit strategies are, so that if and when a black swan event like COVID-19 happens,
you know, we're not just in immediate panic mode because our only plan was a high-end flip.
Yeah. And that's a lot of people in the rental sector, and that's all they do is rentals. A lot of people got burned. I know one guy, he's got 200 and some properties, and he told me he was actually going to come in on that that house that I bought for 260, and he told me 28% of his tenants didn't pay rent.
Oh wow.
So say average rents are 900, call it whatever, 55,000 in rent a month he's out. And he targets his rentals on one type of tenant in one really, really concentrated area. He owns a lot of properties in that area, but what people thought was a good thing, which is essentially social assistance, because the chance of going directly to the tenants, that actually got changed, and they're not going to the tenants anymore. So then he ended up putting the bill on that one. So that's one really good example of being really, really honed in on the one thing that you do, and you can't adjust. You have no leeway. You know? And that's a huge hit, 50-some thousand a month.
Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing that story. Circling back to the flipping business, do you mind giving us a little bit of context for where your flipping business was last year when I went and visited you versus where it is now? Because I definitely don't remember you talking as much about wholesaling or wholetailing. If I remember correctly, it was mainly just kind of like nice flips. That's kind of what you guys did, or definitely that's what I remember.
Yeah, definitely. And that is what we were focusing on. We were focusing on that $250,000 price point. And yes, in Saskatoon, you can buy properties for $250,000, which is crazy. And then selling them $350,000, $400,000, stuff like that. You're making $20,000, $30,000 profit per property. It's good, but it's not that good. I can do a lot better than that for a lot less effort. So, and that's kind of where that shift came in, is actually, I just basically realized that I can turn these properties around so much quicker. So,
and so what's your
buying them so cheap anyways? Like, why wouldn't I just clean them up and resell them to somebody else who either wants to invest in property? And that's another thing I tell people when I sell houses privately, is I tell them, like, I'm giving you a lot of equity in this property. That house that I bought for 260, I ended up selling it for 303, 500. The first sale fell through, and then I sold it again in 2 days after relisting it for a little bit more. And I told those sellers, I was like, this thing's gonna appraise out at like 380 for you guys, 360. You know, if you clean it up, if you have a lot of equity in this property, like, you could really set yourself up financially. So I'm getting into a lot of that now too, actually helping people out, because people just don't know. People don't understand.
Do you want to get control of your financial life? Do you want to crush it in real estate with wholesaling? Do you want to join my full-time team of wholesalers like Mike or Shahir? Or what about Tyler or Diego? Or what about Amar? All right, and what do we do, boys?
We make offers, we buy fast, never gonna miss a deal cause we pay cash. Offers, 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 deals, deals, deals. Tell us, Mr. Seller, what price do you feel? Cause we're Southwestern's biggest source of deals.
Boom! So if you guys want to crush it with wholesaling, you need to join my team. And down below, video description, there's all the links you need.
The first sale fell through, and then I sold it again in 2 days after relisting it for a little bit more. And I told those sellers, I was like, this thing's gonna appraise out at like 380 for you guys, 360. You know, if you clean it up, if you have a lot of equity in this property, like, you could really set yourself up financially. So I'm getting into a lot of that now too, actually helping people out, because people just don't know. People don't understand it.
So, Fraser, from a volume perspective, what did 2019 look like versus 2020? I'm assuming by adding the wholesaling and wholetailing, you're able to do a higher volume of deals. Can you kind of like anchor us to a number? Like, how many flips did you do in 2019 versus how many transactions between wholesales, wholetails, and flips do you plan to do in 2020?
So I did do one wholesale last year too. It was a little house. I didn't get time to show you guys that. But I think we did 7 properties last year, which obviously we're growing from that. But and this year, like I said, just we repositioned everything. I've been working a lot with the multifamily. We're hiring a lot of people on our team right now. So we actually did less properties this year. I think we're at 4 or 5 properties this year just with clients. Maybe we might have 6 now. But from a strictly wholesaling and wholetailing point of view, it's definitely actually gone down, but we put a lot into marketing. We're doing a lot of flyer drops. I'm really like honing in on the market and stuff like that, but we're starting to see some really good returns. So like, for example, Saskatoon has 62,000 dwellings in it, single family homes that we want to target about 40,000 of those. I've probably done about 60,000 flyers this year already. And I can hit them overnight, which is pretty crazy. And that's all systems and processes going in and some of the stuff we've been working on, but it's expensive. So we've been putting out a lot of money, and you know exactly how it goes. It's not something that you can start and then stop. Like, oh, this doesn't work. You commit to it, you start pumping the money into it and the time into it, and that's how. And then eventually, now we're starting to see the returns. So I'm getting a lot of leads coming in. I'm starting to hire sales guys, and yeah, we're ready to rock here. So I didn't want to grow it too big, and then I can't. You miss a lot of houses through the cracks. Like, people call and they get lost through whatever platform, and then you don't end up calling them back. So, and that's actually something that was happening before I had my sales guys, is just there was just too much going on. So that's a good lesson there. So, but we're in a good position now. We built it all into a funnel, and it's awesome. So if we talk again in a year, the numbers should be a lot more interesting.
That's exciting. And so where are you hoping to build the business to? Is there certain benchmarks you've set for yourself? Like, what's on the horizon?
Yeah, so in the next couple months, actually, in regards to your last question, even by the end of the year, I want to grow that a lot. My goal is to make $100,000 a month off strictly the flipping business, and that's flipping wholesale wholesales. And I can do it. I can do it fairly easily in my mind. It's 3 of the houses that I did that I bought for $260. And now that I have the people in place, we have it coming together. So that's my benchmark for that. And then that'll allow me to really expand the business. I can really put the money into marketing. I can really put the money into the sales guys, and I can really build it out. And I already, like I said, have my right-hand man, so he can kind of head that up, because that's the business that's paying the bills right now. And then I can focus more on the multifamily stuff, where I've been dripping on these owners the whole time. So that's like the long-term play on the multifamily side, essentially how we're running it parallel. So.
And do you mind touching upon the importance of having the active business in parallel with the passive business? Because it's something that when I was first starting as an investor, I didn't necessarily appreciate with time. A few buddies of mine that have built up large portfolios with BRRRRs love to say that with the BRRRR investment strategy, you're always broke, as in like you're equity rich, but you're cash poor. And that's something that I can definitely sympathize with. And certainly that's what drew me to wanting to build a really scalable wholesaling business, was that desire for active income. Because while we can build up a lot of equity with buy and hold real estate investing, especially if you're buying undervalued, you're doing BRRRRs or strategic renovations, at the same time, there's a certain just power to having that dry powder at all times that comes through an active business. So do you mind just kind of explaining, your perspective on that, and whether your thoughts have evolved or whether you always understood that from day one?
Yeah, no, it's definitely evolved. I think it's pretty special if somebody understands that right off the bat, or they've been taught well growing up, which is what we want to do with our kids. But yeah, no, it's definitely grown over time. So we bought properties slow over time, and then a lot of people don't realize the power of the multifamily apartment building. And just like you said, if you say that property that we bought on Avenue D, it's got $300,000 in equity tied into it, but we can't touch that for another 5 or 4 years now. It all depends on your financing term and what you're doing for money and stuff like that, like who your partners are, what kind of money they have. So yeah, we need the active income in the business, and that's kind of what I'm really into, using money as a tool. I'm really getting away from that scarcity mindset. And I know it's cliche to say that, but it's so true. A lot of people, they just hold the money so close and save it. And I'm trying to just pump it out there in any direction I can. And in marketing in different divisions of the company, hiring people, it's so important to use that and use it to grow. And with that, it builds on itself, and that's what pays the daily bills, and that's what makes you, or allows you to expand your business. If you just have the passive income off the bat, like even whatever single family home rental property or house in the basement suite, maybe you get a couple $100 a month in cash flow. You're not gonna be able to expand with that. You're not gonna be able to really grab the market, really push yourself out. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where that mindset shift came from me. And that was quite a while ago now, I guess. And then it took me a while to figure out how to get that. And originally it was flipping these $250,000 houses. And that was a good way to create passive income, but it was slow. So you do whatever, 2 or 3 properties at once is what we were doing at the time. And it's non-scalable. Like it's really hard. You can scale it, but it's just a lot harder. So if, like you said, it's just the progression of the investors. So eventually you figure out that you can do this so much quicker. And now I can make 30 grand in 11 days, essentially. You know?
Yeah, it's a very powerful concept to
Always.
really fully internalize. And so I'd love to explore what's the point of all this. And so I know back in 2019 when we were chatting, I don't think we really shared it on social media or on my YouTube videos then, but I remember we were talking about you were developing a strategy to quit your day job. And that's something that I think resonates with a lot of real estate investors, right? You know, a lot of us get into real estate investing with the hope of eventually building up our financial fortress of solitude to the point where we can quit the day job, leave the rat race. And so if I understand correctly, that's part of the goal of building up to this $100,000 a month active business income, right? Is trying to really build yourself a strong, robust business that will allow you just kind of walk away from the 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly. And like for everybody out there, I still work a 9 to 5 job while I'm doing all this. It's pretty long days and pretty crazy stuff, but me and my wife, we both love what we do. But yeah, that's the number one priority right now is getting out of my job. And I'm starting to get to the point where it's almost becoming a hindrance to go into my job. I have like we're going through a big rebranding right now, and I'm becoming a lot more involved in the renovation part, like the client renovation part of the company. And that's like I don't know how to explain that, but with that, I have a lot of meetings and stuff like that. Now I'm doing a lot of interviews, and I'm having a lot of overlap in time. And I find when I am at work, they want somebody who just follows the rules, do it, go from point A to point B, take this. I work in the mining industry. So a lot of you guys out there, like I work a kilometer underground. So a lot of you probably can relate to that, whether you drive heavy equipment or do whatever. So when I go to work, I'm expected to turn my brain off. And what I used to do, which is really interesting, actually, I'd essentially turn my entrepreneur brain off, if you want to call it that. And I would go into work mode. And I would just go butts around, do whatever they say. And then I would come home, and then I have to go back into my real estate brain, which is like an interesting way to say it. So now I'm always switching. And I found it was really hindering what I was doing on the real estate side of things. So now what I do when I go to work, obviously, I figured out how to, like I'm always thinking about real estate and what's going on. And obviously I'm doing my job at the same time. Like I grew up on a farm, I do work hard, but I need to stay in that mode, in that, and just in that mindset, because when you switch too much, it ends up hurting you. So with that, I'm actually losing a lot of things to talk about. I'm a lot less interested in what people are talking about at the table when they have coffee. It's so, and these guys are awesome. I love working with all the guys. They're super cool guys, 99% of them, and we'll probably be friends after, but I'm just not there anymore. I just, me and Vanessa, we talk about that lots, and like it's time, I think. So, and I think they do see it. Like, they know what I'm doing on the side, and I think some of the bosses do see interviews that I do. And I know that they've seen like my website and stuff like that. So people have made comments. But everybody's kind of accepted that too. So this is kind of funny too. Your viewers might enjoy this. So like when I started out, 10 years ago, I just started in the mining industry, and everybody was like, I was in real estate and I would talk about it lots. I was always interested, and people would be like, oh, what's Fraser doing? Like, oh, he's just doing whatever. But now some of my harshest critics from 10 years ago are buying a parcel up at the lake. They're like, hey man, what should I put in the contract? Like what's that called when you have to dig? And I'm like, general conditions. You need to make sure that there's no stipulations on big time, shovel in the ground, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, awesome. I want to be professional when I do this. So I was like, yeah, just give me a call. I'll help you get it all written up, and I'll put you in touch with so it's awesome to see that transition from a lot of my harshest critics into now they're actually coming to me for advice. So that's cool. But yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. It's my number one goal, and I'm excited to get out of there and
And so I know a lot of my fan base, they have aspirations towards that as well, right? They would love to build a real estate business that would let them quit their day job.
Thanks again to Fraser. I absolutely love how just open and transparent he is. He's really just a salt of the earth type dude that loves sharing his experiences and his passion of real estate investing, and it resonates quite strongly with me. So if you guys enjoyed this video with Fraser, make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and check out these videos with Fraser where he goes deeper into his flipping business, because he's doing a lot when it comes to real estate, especially for raising a young family and working a full-time day job as well. Check out this playlist for other great Canadian real estate content. I'll see you in the next video.